we need to remove the line because it's even more, because you're gonna be what happened here, right? So it's like, if we can get.
Yeah, we don't have anyone from Parks at the moment, which is the first thing on the agenda.
Creative.
Okay, and we are at quorum.
You can go ahead and kick us off, Marisa. I'll pivot around. Okay. Great. Welcome everyone to the Executive Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm the chair, Brad Sherburne. So on the agenda tonight, we're going to go through the resolutions and then just pulling up the agenda on my other screen. We're going to go through the resolutions and the agenda for full board. In addition to that, we circulated a statement for a comment on the fast track for affordable housing rules, which we'll discuss tonight and potentially take a vote on. And then we have it listed right now as preliminary budget response discussion. But I think in order to meet the comment deadline, we're going to take a similar approach. So Kim and the budget task force committee met Monday. We just received agency comments back, I think about a week ago. So Kim is going to kind of take us through the approach for that. And we'll talk about that when we get to that on the agenda item. So any questions on that before I get started? All right. So we're going to go a little bit out of order while I hope that one of the parks chair or vice chair comes in, and we'll skip over that. Though, Milan, for your ballot, we should go in the order listed here. But we'll just go out of order tonight for exec. So we'll start with you, Nancy. And you're on mute.
Muted. I'm
There you
muted.
go.
I just unmuted. Now I got to get. Oh, I unmuted. I lost my. Okay, there we go. I lost my talk. Okay, so the first item from land use housing, actually only this month, is DOT and Flatiron Nomad bid application for a major concession expansion along Broadway and Fifth Avenue from 19th to West 31st Street, increasing the concession area to about 162,000 square feet, which then triggers a ULURP process. So this proposed expansion aligns with Broadway vision and the capital reconstruction of this corridor. And it also allows concession revenue to support maintenance and programming of any and all of these public open spaces. So the committee found that with consistent management across the corridor, it's appropriate, and that the concession model can support high quality public space, provided transparency remains in place and the civic character of Broadway is protected. However, we emphasize several priorities, which are strong pedestrian safety measures, relocation of the city bike station to improve circulation, adherence to seating caps, limits on commercialization, permanent utility connections, and maximization of green infrastructure. Most importantly, we affirmed that public accessible bathrooms are an essential amenity in high-density public open spaces and should be incorporated into the capital and operational framework. The vote was 12-0-0. Approval with the expectation that continued engagement with Community Board 5 will ensure these priorities are meaningfully incorporated.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. While we're going out of order, because I sort of anticipate a longer discussion, Nancy, I'm going to circle back to you for the other item, because I think that's a voting item and that'll be a longer discussion. So let's go through sort of the, items heard at committee, and then we'll circle back to that. So then that takes us to you, David. There you are on my screen, David.
Okay, we have 2 items on the agenda this month. We have the street blade co-naming guidelines, which Samir and Robert worked on. And it basically sets an extremely high bar, but one that's not impossible to achieve. makes us the kind of first pass at this before it goes to whoever our city council person is going to be. So it basically sets up a series of principles and an approval process and provides all of the information that an applicant would have to supply in order to even be reviewed. And it ends with approval of the community board and forwarding it to the city council. And this was 15,000 in the committee.
Any questions? Any comments? Okay. Next one, David.
The next one is implementing Sammy's Law in our community district. So a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. And we were approached by families. Oh, I must be looking at the old one, the blank. Families for Safe Streets, which has been presenting this to different community boards all over the city. I think Queens Community Board adopted it. CB4 here, Manhattan CB4. I don't know that they actually got the presentation, but they've adopted it in committee, and it's going to their full board on their schedule. And so, in looking at the statistics, that basically the injury rate and death rate at 20 miles an hour is significantly less than it is at the current 25 miles an hour. And we adopt it universally in our district because we don't have any roads under the legislation that need to be exempted from it. So that one was also 15,000 at the committee.
Great. Thank you. Any questions?
And Ankur drafted that one.
Great. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah,
Great.
Ankur.
I think line 491 on the last version of the packet titles this support for a citywide 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. I think our resolution is just a community board-wide 20-mile speed limit, so we may want to change that.
Okay.
Good catch. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. We will now circle back up to PPSC. Libby, you're up.
Hi guys, sorry about that. The Zoom room is still a little slow for me. So we heard the RFP, sort of like the first conversation with the Parks Department for the night market that's had a 1-year contract the last several years in Union Square. And this was a conversation about what's going to go into the RFP. Our primary concerns were really about the footprint and the operating dates. In the last year, it's been a longer amount of time, and that back-to-back nature of it combined with the large footprint created sort of the most concern, along with bathrooms, which is not only important to the board as a whole, but is also important to the committee. That if you're bringing in food, alcohol, that you should have additional bathrooms. And then on top of that, there were some compliance issues with whether or not sanitation had been followed. There was definitely more rats. The rest of it kind of goes through, and it's sort of sustainability stuff, additional seating, some of the hours, just going into some of the issues that we had. And the other big thing that we wanted to coordinate with Parks on was trying to get more information about who really is using the market. It was brought up that, of course, the vendors are going to say this is great, but we hoped for the Parks Department to coordinate with the community and collaborate and figure out, hey, could there be a survey so we know not only is it like visitors using it, is it people in the park, and sort of we can say our comments, but we wanted to be a little bit more neutral in how we provided those. So we were just curious, since this is going to be a contract for 1 year, but it can be renewed 4 times. Also just flagging that this is one of those, not concessions, but one of the contracts, concession-y things that a portion of the money from this contract would go into any hypothetical sole source agreement with Union Square Partnership. That was sort of a part of the conversation, but not really the focus. The focus is just on it, but just flagging that for awareness. but it passed 12-0-0-0.
Great, thank you. Questions? Samir?
I wanted to see if before this goes up to full board, if it could be possible to add like just maybe one or two sentences about what it is. Like I didn't even realize it was a night market until you just mentioned it's a night market because it's not anywhere in the resolution or the letter. So if there could just be like one, even just one sentence, that would be really helpful.
The Union Square Food Market is in the title.
You said it's a night market.
They call it the night market. They start setting up at 10 a.m. in the day. So we also didn't really feel that calling it a nighttime market was really an accurate piece of that because it opens at least last year, it opened at, I think, noon, but it might have been 11.
Got it. Yeah.
In the morning.
Regardless, I think just even a sentence or two of like what it is, when it is, what days it is would be helpful before, it goes to full board.
That is not information that they can provide at this time because it's an RFP. So we have information about prior years. We do not have information about the current. That is something that would be negotiated in the RFP, which is part of why the first thing is do it less than last year when it was back to back, because the contract itself is up for negotiation. But so what we're asking for is less. We can try to track down the information from last year in more explicit detail, but
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind incorporating that just into the spiel at the beginning, I think that's helpful context, Libby, at full board.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, I see a member of the public has a comment, so I'll take us out of business session. Charles Nye.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I just wanted to say, as a member of the public, during the Parks and Public Spaces, session on the concessions of the Union Square night market, I found it inappropriate that one board member said that the statue of Gandhi in Union Square was useless and that Gandhi wasn't as great as people think, since Gandhi's character was not on the agenda. I can understand that people would want to point out public space that can be made available for public bathrooms, but it could have been said that there is some space around the statue in Union Square or around the Gandhi statue without basically saying disparaging remarks about the who the statue is of. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're going to go back in order. So that is you, Kevin, Landmarks.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. Landmarks had one resolution this month. It is the Imperial Theater at 45th Street. This is a interior landmark theater. It was opened in 1923, but it was designated a landmark in the 1980s. The Imperial is doing a whole bunch of renovations. You might remember they first came to us back in August of last year with a first round of renovations, and those were all approved unanimously. They're back again with a second round, less severe renovations, but still meaningful. In the back of the resolution in the packet, I included a few graphs that the theater provided to us. There's a whole bunch, so I won't list them all. But if you look at the graphs, the renovations that are listed in black font are the renovations that we originally approved back in August. But the renovations listed in red font are the ones that they're requesting now. The new renovations, they basically fall into three buckets. So first on the balcony level, on the orchestra level, which is the ground floor, they want to remove the house right stair and emphasize and move some of the features from that house right stair over to the left house left stair. Second, on the intermediate level, they were going to remove some of the patron restrooms and turn them into amenity spaces. And then on the balcony level, they're going to make some adjustments to the box seating. That's done for decorative purposes, but also to allow for adjustments to the speaker placement. And then lastly, also on the balcony level, they're going to push the exit doors on the house right side back into their newly expanded annex to improve patron circulation to prevent kind of a buildup of people leaving at the end of the show. Overall, it was a lot of renovations going on and a lot of detail, but there's nothing super controversial here. It was overall approved 12-0-0 by committee.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Comments? Okay. Seth, you're up for slot.
Brad. We had one reso for SLAP this week. It was intro 0655-2026. This is legislation to expand the outdoor dining program in New York. And we talked through 6 different features of the legislation that we either did not take a position on if we couldn't get consensus, or we did take a position on either in support or in opposition. And I'll quickly go through those 6 now, just so everybody has an idea. So the first of the 6 features was that the legislation allows grocery stores to apply for a sidewalk cafe license. On this one, we're supporting it. We did get consensus on that. On the seasonal restrictions removal, which would make these cafes year-round, unlike now where they have to put them away in the winter. We did not take a position on that. That was probably the most controversial item. The next one was that the legislation provides the option to expand footage for certain cafes upon consent of the DOT commissioner and the neighboring business. This one we're also supporting. So those are that's the second one we're supporting. The next 2 that are no comment are first that the legislation specifies that the community board can't require the petitioner to supply the board with additional written materials. So we didn't take a position on that. No comment also on setting protected operating hours between 10 a.m. and 12 a.m. And then the one we were opposed to is that the legislation reduces from 12 to 8 feet the required minimum setback from crosswalks and intersections. And the committee felt that reduced visibility at the crosswalks and, sort of endangered pedestrians. So we are opposed to that one. So that's it at a high level. Happy to talk through any of those, but we were able to reach a near consensus, 12-1-0-0.
Thank you, Seth. Any questions? Ankur.
For the ones for which you couldn't reach consensus, does the way the resolve clauses read, do we say anything or it's just omitted altogether?
Yeah, that's a good question. We omit, so for example, the seasonal item, we essentially omit that altogether. We mention broad concerns where they exist. So things like being concerned about the community board being sort of taken out of the discussion process. We mentioned that, but the specific aspects of the legislation we do leave out.
Thank you. I think when we get to comments, I might want to have a comment about that in part also because our transportation committee considered aspects of this, the sidewalk space, and we sort of talked about trying to cut a balance between supporting what some of the restaurants wanted, which was the year-round piece of it, while sort of resisting the sidewalk piece because we agree that that's an issue in the neighborhood. But this is sort of a bit different than that. So, but I'll save that part for the comments.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that sounds good.
You're on.
I'm curious why this isn't phrased as a deny unless the provision we don't like is removed. it's just like kind of a confusing resolution because we're saying like there are parts of this intro we like, there are parts of this intro we don't like. So we're not actually weighing in on the intro. Do you see what I mean? I feel like
Yeah,
in
that's a good
normal
point.
procedure we would say we deny we don't want this piece of legislation
Oppose unless,
unless
perhaps.
right, oppose unless you remove this provision that we didn't like. But is it because we're not weighing in on some of the other? It's just kind of a confusing resolution.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I hadn't considered. So essentially, the approach that was taken was because I initially anticipated we'd be able to get more consensus on some of these, and we weren't. So I think I have newfound appreciation for like how hard it was for Nancy and like Julie and David to get MSMX across the line. But I would say I don't think it would be against the spirit of what we voted on to shift the language to something like. I'm trying to think of how this would go, but it would essentially be, yeah, deny unless these three things, right? Like this thing
Yeah,
is struck and those two things are.
listen, in my time on the board, I don't think I've ever seen a resolution that was like, we like some parts, we don't like some parts, but didn't have an overall yes or no. That wasn't either a yes or a no, or a yes with, reservations, or a no, a deny unless. This feels like new to me, and so, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we've done this before. So just putting that out there for what it's worth. I'm not like, I think it's fine if we want to take it to the board. It just seems like a little not in our process.
Perhaps because I understand where you're coming from, Euron, and I think that makes sense. But I do think that switching it to like an oppose unless kind of washes out the difference between the ones that we support versus the ones that we are neutral on, unless we're careful about it. But
Right.
perhaps if this, and I know I personally preferred there to be a single resolve clause because I worry about people reading past the first one. But if we're already in the 4 to 5 category, then perhaps we begin with an initial resolve that explains kind of our approach, or like frames it in a way that makes it clear that the reason we're weighing in is because there's not a clear consensus yes for or against the overall intro, but there are portions that we want to either support or oppose. With that, does that splitting that baby sort of address what you're looking for, Euron, or is that still?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, I'm just, for me, it's like a clarity thing. It's like, I'm not sure a member of the city council reads this resolution and actually gets what we're saying. So I'm just trying to get the clearest version of that. So that would be great. I think that helps us be a little clearer. But I know Samir has his hands up. He might have a different idea.
Good, Samir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly fine with the way it's written. I understand like the confusion. I think it's just like from my perspective, what we're trying to give the council member is like, here are the provisions we support, here are the provisions we're neutral about, and here are the provisions we don't like. So maybe if we format it that way as one resolved, it's a little bit easier, but I don't see a problem with not having an overarching, deny unless.
And that's fine. Have we ever weighed in on a piece of potential legislation like that, though? Have we ever weighed in? We like these parts, we're neutral on these parts, we don't like these parts?
Marissa's shaking her head.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Since I've been here.
I mean, either they're voting yes or no, right? It's like, it's like they don't have I guess, anyway, I don't want to belabor this, but so Seth, I defer to you. I've made my comment. It is what it is.
No, it's very helpful. I think yeah, this letter, this is the first that I have worked on like commenting on a legislation. So I think that framing should be clearer. So I'll take a stab at revising that just so that it still fits with the what we voted on essentially.
Great.
When do I have the language just procedurally?
So I think Marissa tries to get the package out with our new schedule by Thursday is how we did it last cycle. So at least a week. So Thursday would be great so that we can have everyone has a week to sit with them in advance of full board. So if that works for you.
Yeah.
Great. David.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we usually weigh in this early. I mean, we don't even know if this thing has a path to becoming a real boy. So, for us to weigh in early, I think it's okay to say we like parts and we don't like parts. It provides, some early feedback to whoever our city council person ends up being. And I don't think it has to be a definitive oppose. And I actually feel like it's premature to be doing that. We don't know what this thing's going to look like at the end of the process.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Marisa.
We learned today at the City Council Transportation hearing that the DOT came out in full support for year-round dining. So I think there is absolutely a path. We'll move forward, and it will move forward somewhat quickly.
Thank you, Marisa. Okay, I think we were still in questions technically, so
Sorry.
no, you're fine. Yeah, I think you phrased it as a question. Comments, Ankur.
So I think maybe it's somewhat related to the points that Yaron and Samir were making. I think as currently drafted, it was a little confusing for me as well as to how we sort of came out on some of the neutral items. The one I care the most about is the year-round piece, in part because our transportation committee, when we went through the sidewalk width piece of it in sort of a separate context, but very similar issue, we sort of talked, and David, you probably can express this more eloquently than I can, but we sort of talked about how the trade-off might be we continued to push for wide enough sidewalks in our part of town, but we concede on the year-round piece, which is really important for the restaurant owners. It may be that you know this committee could not get there on that one, and if you're neutral on it or could not reach consensus on it, that's, I think, important to say, because at least the way it read to me is you had a bunch of concerns, and then you said you support a couple things, and then it was clear that you opposed something, but that's similar to what our transportation committee also opposed. And I don't think it led, at least me as a reader, to a view that we weren't opposed or didn't have serious concerns with the year-round piece. And maybe if it was just a statement, like Samir said, that we were neutral on some aspects of it or had differing views or something, that might be a little bit softening. I am just nervous about a statement that implies that we oppose the year-round piece. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's how it kind of felt to me.
No, that's fair. I think when I revise it, I can do several things. One is to pack everything into one resolve clause to make it clear, and then I'll also specify that we're neutral, completely neutral on things like the seasonality and the other items, because I think that's a good point. It's sort of like leaving out, and it almost implies a negative, opinion given what we lead with.
Great. Any other comments? Okay, let's circle back then. So now we have two voting items, last two items on our agenda. So the first one is the comment on the fast track for affordable housing rules. So Nancy, you're up.
Okay, so there was such a short review period that we prepared this draft reso for the executive committee because the cycle to get the comments in by April 1st is before we're going to have our next land use meeting. So this would go to vote on our March 12th meeting. And this is about the affordable housing fast track concept that grew out of the 2025 Charter Revision Commission's review of ULURP and housing reform. So the Commission's final report led to our then comment on the Charter Revision land use process reforms, which is dated October 9th, 2025. And I think we sent that reso out to everyone to review. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at that? Everyone, yes? Because it kind of gives you the beginning. Okay. Does anyone need any more time to look at it? Are we okay?
Keep going.
Okay. So this addressed the proposal, among others, and about fast track publicly financed affordable housing in districts producing the least housing. So in that October 2025 resolution, we supported the affordable housing fast track concept because it encouraged affordable housing production citywide. So now let's remember the November 2025 ballot initiative, proposal number 2, Affordable Housing Fast Track, which was passed by every one of us here in the city. And this created a new fast track process to speed up review of affordable housing in districts with the lowest production. So DCP's proposed affordable housing fast track rules are the administrative implementation of that ballot initiative proposal 2, which establishes the formula and procedures for identifying the lowest producing districts and expediting certain housing, affordable housing applications. So currently, we are saying in this new resolution that we're voting on tonight that it builds on the proposal that we've gone over in the past by urging accurate and auditable data, transparent methodology, strong infrastructure findings, and preserving public engagement. This resolution we're voting on tonight continues the position that CB5 adopted in our charter revision resolution of 2025, supporting affordable housing production while ensuring fairness, accountability, and confidence in the land use process. I hope everyone's read it. I'm not going through all of the various features that we are listed in our draft reso that we're asking you to vote on tonight. You can do that on your own.
All right, let's start with questions. Samir.
So for number 2, exclusion of preservation programs. So the charter revision that was passed, 197F, specifically says that it's, measured only using new affordable housing dwelling units and not, I guess it doesn't say not preserving, but it does say new units only. So I guess I'm a little confused. What are we asking for? Are we asking for them to do another charter amendment to add preservation, or are we just asking for reporting?
We're giving opinions on the rules. The current rules, they're not finalized.
So just to be clear, we're not asking, this is not explicitly asking for another charter revision. This is based on the prior one, or addressing the prior one.
Got it. And then question on number 6 for the last urges. CB5 urges equitable distribution, requires longitudinal evaluation, not single cycle metrics alone. So again, like the charter says that it's a 5-year cycle, so it has to be a 5-year cycle. So I guess, are we asking for additional reporting that is on a 10-year cycle, on a window? What are we asking for?
We're just clarifying what's already there now. We're not making changes. We're just giving our opinion on that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there's I'm going to say my read of this, and again, this happened this came together relatively quickly, so I appreciate these comments. It's part of this is making a statement, not that we're looking to change the rules, but just that like part of this is it is an ongoing process, not just a single cycle alone. That is kind of the way we in this resolution are saying this should be considered. Questions? Ankur.
Could you speak a little bit to I know there was very limited time, but could you speak a little bit to the drafting process? Like, how did this come together? Why these particular refinements? How did we sort of approach that or think about that?
Sure, and I'll jump in for this, Nancy. So we got the proposed rule changes, I believe, after our land use committee. And so in trying to determine the best way to respond to this, connected with CB6, whose land use committee happened to fall following the release of the rule changes. So they were able to go through the normal process for their own. And so we got their resolution, reviewed it, looked at it to make sure it kind of applied to ours and modified it where appropriate. But essentially it's using a similar model that we've been using in transportation, where we're trying to look at what other community, like our sort of associate community boards, are saying and see if it makes sense to echo that statement as well. Questions? Any other questions? Comments?
Yeah, let me just quickly go through them. My comments, I'll go through them all at once.
Sure.
For number one, I don't really agree that we should be pushing for something that is not as certain. I think the current proposal is certain, and if a unit happens to get caught in the next 5-year window, I think that's fine. I'd rather have something more certain. For number, what number is this? 5. The infrastructure deficiencies, I don't think they should trigger capital improvements. I think it just should get denied, which is what would happen according to the city charter. If they can't, if we don't have the infrastructure, they should just deny the project, not force them to build new infrastructure. For number 7, the city charter says it's by units, and so it has to be by units. So I don't see why we would ask them to consider anything else, which would be against the city charter. Number 8, I actually agree with full-heartedly. I think it'd be silly to penalize CBs for administrative delays if they're not able to get their certificate of occupancy. And then number 9, I actually don't agree that this is only for smaller projects. This is for all affordable housing. It just happens to use the expedited land use review procedure that for the other section is for smaller projects, but that doesn't mean that this specific use is for smaller projects. So in general, I also don't really think that if we're asking for any specific changes, I just don't think it's worth sending anything in, especially on the short timeline. So I would propose that I personally am going to vote no.
Okay, thank you, Samir. David.
Yeah, just to comment, just because, following this for quite a while, during the charter discussion as well, originally the charter language was extremely general, and it wasn't even clear what the definition of an affordable housing project was. So there was a chance at some point before these rules came out that this would only be applicable to maybe 100% affordable projects or 50% affordable, and we're not really going to see those in our district. So the fact that this basically says, as long as you have a single affordable unit, you can come under this as long as you meet the rest of the tests. So for our district, that's very helpful because we're going to see a lot of mixed use housing, particularly in MSMX. And so, yeah, I mean, we may have opinions on each of the individual pieces, but the overall benefit of this is much greater than we were afraid it might be off the original concept. So I'm in favor of it. I think we can make any comment we want to make, and DCP and the council will look at it and decide, how applicable it is. But overall, the impact of the rules will be a lot more positive for us. Having said that, I don't see us ever getting off the bottom 12 list. It's pretty hard, even on a 5-year basis, because of what goes into it and the length of time it takes to deliver these projects and for populations to change. I don't see the big changes in 5-year cycles, for districts like ours.
Thank you, David. You're on.
Just to piggyback on something David said, I will say that when the charter revision proposals came out, City Limits did its own study of who they think might fall into the bottom 12, and CB5 was not one of them. So David, you seem to be implying that we would certainly be on the bottom 12, and I don't think that's actually the case, and certainly not with MSMX. But so I a little bit struggle with this on 2 grounds, one procedural and one not. The procedural ground is this is highly technical. To put out the letter that the land use committee put out that Nancy referred to, we had 2 different hour-long presentations at committee. We had big discussion. We had full board voting. This is a very truncated process that's like a couple hours for us to read it and then talk about it here. I really struggle with that. I struggle with how prepared we are to make this decision tonight. And secondly, I think I want to be guided by what the people in our district want. And in November, 60% of Manhattanites, I don't know what it was like in CB5, but 60% of Manhattanites voted for this charter change. What they voted for was literally the words fast track. They did not vote for medium track. They did not vote for some of the other things that would result from what we're proposing here. There are certain proposals in here I like, there's certain proposals I don't. And I understand it's for rulemaking, but I don't know that I feel prepared to weigh in on this right now tonight. And I also, there are certain provisions here that would certainly slow the fast track down. And I think that's not in the spirit of what 60% of Manhattanites voted for. So I don't know. I'm struggling on this one.
Thanks, Ron. Ankur.
I share those concerns. It was helpful to hear that this is basically coming from language that CB6 started with and that we modified. And I agree that we in transportation have sometimes looked at neighboring community boards as a starting point. But in those cases, we always have extended conversation. And I appreciate the time limit here precluded that. But I think by taking that piece away, it's not the best idea to use a neighboring community board's resolution as a starting point without that conversation. As Yaron noted, there's a lot of technical items here that we need to give considerable thought. The way Nancy ran our previous resolution on this back in November, I think, is the exemplar with something this technical. And we didn't do it here. I also share the concern that this resolution undermines what people voted for. So to put an even finer point on it, the ballot proposal had language in it that said what a yes vote means and what a no vote means. And it said a yes vote is fast tracking applications and a no vote leaves affordable housing subject to longer review. And more people wanted to fast track than have longer review process. Many of the items in this resolution and the resolve clause are designed to extend the review process. And I think that is at clear odds with what people wanted. And it worries me. And the final point is there are many places where there are trade-offs between ensuring the most new units get built and other sort of considerations like counting existing units that people believe may be affordable, recognizing the timing of when a project or a cycle is. But those are pretty complicated policy trade-offs, and there's a lot of certainty in this document, which I'm not sure why our community board would be so certain about some of these things or if the best reading. So I have very serious concerns about this as written, and I don't think we should proceed with this, even if that means giving up our chance to comment at this point. But there'll be many chances to comment on legislation or maybe not. And if not, we don't have to comment on everything. But I'd rather be thoughtful in our comments on something that, if you really think about it, those ballot measures were a repudiation of the way the city runs land use. It was a repudiation of the way that the council had its ability to sort of decide when housing got built and very lengthy review processes. And the city and the voters said overwhelmingly, we can't do it this way. And I think we're just trying to push to return to the pre-ballot measure status quo, and it's concerning to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Ankur. Any other comments? Okay, so let me do this because I hear the concerns for this, and I unfortunately cannot address the process ones, but I can address the content ones, which is, are there particular items in here for those who feel as though they cannot support this, that their removal would change that? And if so, what are they?
Unfortunately, I just haven't had enough time to answer that question. I wish I could have. I didn't see the text of this until a few hours ago.
Ankur, Samir, not to put you on the spot, but just because you spoke up.
No, I don't think I could vote for this, even with some. I mean, there's so many complicated policy issues that we have to sort of think about in trade-offs.
I mean, I think that there's just so many of them that I'd want changed that it's not even worth going through.
Okay, thank you. Any of those of you who haven't spoken up so far, how are we thinking? How are we feeling?
I'm still not super confident in my knowledge.
Mhm.
But there are some bits and pieces that I feel like align with what I'm hearing around maybe going against this idea of fast tracking. But I feel like I need to noodle on this.
Okay. Tiffany, I see
Yeah.
you unmuted, but I
Yeah.
can't. There you go.
Yeah, no, oh, sorry. I remember the reso from 2025, so I haven't had, I also don't feel like I've been able to understand the changes enough for what we supported before. Like Anka was saying, things were very direct versus what is kind of a little back and forth, or maybe a little bit of a different mindset than last time. I wish I had more time to have read it as well, so I had a better feedback. Like I said, I remember the reso from 2025. I know it was very supported, and I just haven't got a chance to understand the changes that we are asking to make.
Thank you, Tiffany. Seth?
Yeah, I'll just wait as well. I'm also feeling like I'm not certain, but I don't think I could support it without knowing more. And yeah, I'd rather, I think, make no comment than make a comment that I don't fully understand. But I appreciate that, the time frame has been very short, so I understand why that is.
Thank you. Libby?
Is there any other, like, our exec is a whole week earlier now, so I'm just wondering, is there a different time frame under which, like, are there any other options other than immediately tonight to work this through?
So
Or provide information, just we have more time. That was sort of an intentional change. But that's sort of after things are drafted and voted on versus the full board. So I'm just wondering if there's a little bit more room to consider it longer.
So, to answer that question, I think there's probably two ways that if we really felt strongly about, we could pursue. One is we continue to have an emergency order. So in theory, we could have a separate executive committee meeting, special executive committee meeting to review this after people feel like they have enough time in advance of our full board meeting next Thursday to review, discuss, and potentially propose any changes. That's one thing. The other is if we felt it appropriate, we could also, as spelled in our bylaws, act on behalf of the board as an executive committee to issue this comment, presumably following our board meeting, but before the comment period, which is the 15th, I believe, Marisa. Is that? Can you just double check?
That off. I don't have, I'll try and look for it while you're speaking.
Yeah, I think it's the 15th. So I think those are the three paths before, I guess four paths before us, which is approve this or modify and approve this tonight, do nothing tonight, and just sort of say we're not going to issue a comment, emergency executive committee meeting, or followed by full board vote, or emergency executive committee meeting on behalf of the board.
Got it.
David.
Yeah, I guess I feel like we're getting like too deep on what this thing is. I mean, it's not a deny or an approval of something. A lot of times the resolutions that we pass or letters that we send are just a way of collecting community input. And clearly, these comments were of concern in another community board district. George Janes reviewed all of it and confirmed that a lot of these are questions that people have. And so I don't think there's any problem with reporting out that, we recognize the following underlying issues. This whole thing started out as, let's fast track affordable housing, as Ankur said. And now all of a sudden we're finding out what that really means and how the rules are going to be applied. And so I think it's perfectly fine to say we recognize that there are some concerns. I think, if somebody proposed a 1,000-unit project and got fast tracked with a whole bunch of environmental issues, I don't think we as a community board would be very happy. The other side of this is that cutting out our council person, because that really was the focus, eliminating member deference, in some ways undercuts our power. We weigh in early, but our vote is advisory. And we were always relying on our council person to really represent our views, but we're not going to have that on all these. So there are issues for how we review these projects going forward. So I mean, I support this for what it is. I don't support it as this is our vote on what the what the original intent of the charter revision was. These are reasonable concerns about the direction we're going in, and over time we'll see what's true and what's not true.
Thank you, David. Samir.
Yeah, two things. One, I don't know if we suggested this as a potential path, but the next land use meeting I think is on the 18th, and then we have exec on the 31st, and comments are due on the 1st. So we could actually not have any emergency meetings and just have it go through the regular land use meeting and then have us vote on it at exec. The second thing is, so that's one idea. The second thing is like, I agree, David. I think it's fine to give comments, but that's not what this document is. It specifically says the board urges the City Planning Commission to revise and strengthen the proposed rules as set forth below. And that's not what I'm comfortable with. I think if this document was just, here are some comments we heard from the community, which again, we haven't. We've heard them from a different community board through a consultant. That would be different, but that's not what this document is.
Thank you. Nancy.
I think we voted at full board for affordable housing in our district. We studied it for months in our committee. I don't think we have to submit an opinion. Let's just not. Why bother? We don't really, let's let the DCP, we trust them. Let's let DCP figure it out for us. We don't have to take a position at all. That's my take on this.
Okay, let me do this then. Let me take a straw poll before we go. So I'm gonna offer you all three choices, which is a support of the resolution as written, or with modifications, a denial forever, or a denial until using one of the kind of alternate approaches, meaning we want to deny it because of the process more than the substance, if that makes sense. Do you all understand sort of those three different paths?
Repeat the three choices.
So yes, basically a support of this or some version of this, a denial forever, which I think is probably used for those who disagree with the kind of the premise, and then a denial and then with the idea that we would take it up in one of those other future paths, which I think is more of a process concern than a premise concern, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone?
Well, where does the no comment come into one of those?
That would be the denial forever.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just go as I see it on my screen, and I'm going to take notes. Okay, Nancy.
Oh, denial forever.
Okay. David?
I'm a yes.
Okay. Milan? You're muted.
Oh, I'm going to put myself yes, actually.
Okay. Kevin?
Deny forever.
Okay. Kieran?
Yes.
Okay. Seth?
Denial forever as well.
Okay. Yoden?
Denial forever.
Okay. Julie?
I agree with David, what he said, and it's a yes for me.
Okay. You're on?
Denial forever is such a funny phrase. I would say no comment. Yes, denial.
So denial forever? Okay. Ankur?
Deny forever.
Okay. Tiffany?
I'm going to say as Yaron said and say no comment.
Okay. Kim?
Denial forever.
Okay. Libby?
I'm the process one, and then we have the option to, deny forever and ever, never get back together, whatever. Then.
So deny for now, I guess.
Or I want to kick the can down the road and let more people kind of think about it.
Okay. Samir?
That would have us not comment.
Okay. All right. So that's 4 yeses, 9 deny forever, and 1 deny for now. So I think with that, I guess, do we have to take this to a formal vote, or we can just table this resolution?
You can just table it.
All right, yeah, I don't have my Robert's rules with me. We're virtual. All right, we're just going to table this resolution, and, you know, don't hold your breath for when it comes back. Okay. Thank you, everyone. That's helpful. Let's move on then to the last item. Kim, you're up.
I'm sorry, Brett, can I just ask, do you want to report on this out to the board, or I'll just remove it from the reso package and we'll never speak of it again?
Remove it from the reso package, and I'll talk with Nancy about if it makes sense to give some sort of report, because I mean, we had a long discussion here tonight, but I also don't want to confuse people into thinking we're going to be voting on this thing that we're never going to bring to them. So
Okay.
I'll talk to Nancy about maybe the best way to frame that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marisa. All right, now you're up, Kim.
Okay, hey friends, it's budget time again. I just wanted to quickly walk everyone through how we are planning to structure our response this year and what the main takeaways are. So first, our plan, similar to our approach with committees, is to organize the response by policy silo, and we will not comment. We're not going to attempt to comment on every single item in the register. The agency response document, as you can imagine, is incredibly long. And our goal here is to focus on 1 to 3 of the most consequential items per silo, particularly those that align with our top district needs priorities. So you'll see sections organized around housing and economic stability, behavioral health, homelessness and aging services, transportation and public realm, parks and public space, youth, schools and workforce, and then, you know, within each silo, we will reply to different agencies as well. And so the complexity of it is that we have a limited number of silos, but we have, you know, 20 different agencies that we heard back from. And so we want to make this punchy enough that it will be usable by our elected officials. So then within each silo, we plan to do a couple things. We'll summarize what we requested, how the agency responded, and kind of what we still need clarification on or still want to push for funding. The second thing I want to highlight is that there were some clear patterns in the agency responses. So across multiple agencies, we saw the same categories appear repeatedly, things like supported but cannot accommodate. So that means agencies agree with the request in principle, but say they cannot fund it within current fiscal parameters. Another category is completed, but in some cases, it's not clear whether that means the program is permanently baselined or whether it was a temporary restoration and at what level. And then a number of responses that simply say things like contact the agency or requires clarification. And so our goal is to find clarity through our response as well. And also recognizing that we had such a robust engagement process to put together our original budget requests, we also want to make sure that the responses are shared across all committees with chairs and vice chairs so that you can also take back the agency responses and decide if there are things that you want to take up over the course of the next year too. Because we did actually get some pretty, I know Marisa was commenting, this is like the most robust response we've gotten in a while, and we're excited that we did get a lot of content back. In terms of policy priorities, I would say there are a few areas where the gaps are most visible still. Housing stability and tenant protection remain major issues. So the basic feedback was that like programs exist and are funded, but the scale is not yet matching demand. So that's still priority for us. Around behavioral health, homelessness, et cetera, similar pattern, like programs are funded, but capacity is constrained relative to Midtown's service load, as we know. One, I guess I'll say it's a kind of limited bright spot. A transportation request actually saw a number of positive responses where DOT indicated that projects can be accommodated. So there, the focus will shift to implementation and coordination, which is exciting. parks capital repairs and library accessibility improvements were really supported but not funded category, and that creates, as we all know, like longer term infrastructure concerns. And in youth and education, again, like ongoing gap between some of the program demands that we're seeing and available capacity. And so we plan to also address that. And I think I really want to make clear, similar to our original district needs statement for this year, a final framing in the letter about Midtown's role in the city. It's not just another neighborhood. It's the largest employment center in the country. It's a major transit hub. It's one of the most visited districts in the world. And so when services fall short here, whether it's housing stability or public realm maintenance or behavioral health response, the impacts ripple citywide. And so I think the goal of this response is not simply to restate requests, but to really emphasize that strategic investment in Midtown protects the city's economic engine and reduces, as we all know, it reduces downstream costs elsewhere in the system. So where we stand now is that, again, we got the responses back last week. I'm sorry, we were a little delayed in kicking off, and we are currently putting together the response by silo. I expect to have this pulled together by Friday, and I want to then circulate it with all of you. And then I think what we'll do is probably delay it and send it out on Monday or so after everyone on the committee has had a chance to have eyes on it. I think that's a process we discussed, right, Brad?
Yeah, procedurally that is right. So just in terms of the way that this sequence goes, and this is based on the sort of format that we've used, which is a task force for open meetings law. This has to come to a vote tonight in order to be heard at the executive committee, or sorry, at the full board meeting next Thursday. So I would like you all to think of this as Kim has kind of laid out the approach. Think of this like the vote at committee for a resolution before the text is finalized. As Kim said, she'll share the text with all of us Friday so that we can take a look, address any comments, and then that will be shared with the full board Monday for a vote. And this is basically follow-ups to the district needs statement that we all voted on
and
November, sometime in that period.
Yes, November. And I should mention, time is of the essence. Our response is due on March 15th. So much time to get it done, but for something that's so important.
Thank you, Kim. Questions? Samir.
I am a little concerned about the process, just because I guess are we worried that it's going to come across as something that we voted on explicitly? My proposal, if I were to give one, would be to just do this as a committee of the whole at the full board meeting, just like introduce it from the floor and be like, here it is. We're going to vote on it. I don't see why like exec needs to weigh in first if we're not really weighing in on anything.
Yeah, so what we're weighing in on tonight is the sort of the strategy and approach, as Kim has put it here before, for responding to the agency responses for the items that we voted on in November. So it's in theory, we shouldn't really be staking out any new ground. It's sort of the follow-up or the kind of next step on all of those things, which is why I'm bringing it to us tonight. I understand that you don't have the kind of exact language to review and sort of vote on tonight, much in the same way that you don't when you vote on a resolution at a committee before it goes to the full board. And so that's why I think we're proposing the Friday review period to address any comments that you have before seeing it Monday. And then in theory, if you still didn't like that, you are free to vote against it at the full board. But I think that's unfortunately the best we can do with this turnaround time that we've been given. My only concern about going to a committee of the whole at the full board is this is a very long document, as Kim said, and I worry about kind of opening that can of worms, as it were, with us all debating the entirety of the district response statement. Kieran.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was just going to say, I guess the other thing we had discussed, Brad, was we could convene again as exec
Similar
vote
to,
on.
yeah, similar to what I said for the last thing, those options are all still available for this item as well.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to limit you all with the extra meetings. So,
yeah, for sure.
but I'm open to that if people feel like they want to see the explicit text before they vote. Karen.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, everyone supported the submission of this district needs statement. And part of the process of the district needs statement is asking agencies for more stuff, calling out where we have where we deem we have needs, et cetera, need more support and so forth. So this is just the agencies just came back to us with like, yeah, we already did this, or no, we can't do this, or yeah, we agree with you and we're going to do it. And we're just kind of summarizing those responses and then asking, challenging, asking for more in certain silos, as we're calling them, but they're all in support of our three main statements or three main asks that we all agreed for. So just to be clear, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel here. So I don't want anyone to feel like, and I do agree that to try to explain this in a clear, concise way with more bodies, I think it'll be a huge time suck, and I don't know if necessarily will reap a benefit.
Thank you, Karen. Hold on.
Yeah, just wanted to be clear on what is our critical path, like from tonight to, let's say, next board meeting, just so I make sure I know what the timeline looks like.
Sure. So charting out, if we take the path that I'm proposing, is tonight we essentially vote on the approach and sort of the high level strategy for those responses that Kim has outlined. A draft of that would be so the actual text, which is the actual responses, just because they all met last night to try to kind of take the first pass at this, but weren't able to complete something for today. We will then issue that actual text on Friday. You all have the weekend to review, have questions, comments, etc. Back to Kim to make any refinements, circulate it to the board Monday. We would vote on it Thursday at the full board, and then it would be due the 15th. So there isn't another like normal meeting cycle for us to do this. So this is the window. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. You're on.
I have no procedural concerns.
Thanks. Samir.
Okay, I changed my mind. I think I'm fine with this. All I would ask is that when we talk about it at full board, if, when we're discussing like, oh, exec voted on this with this vote, we just say like what we voted on, which was the procedure, not necessarily the text.
That's fine. Yeah. Tiffany.
I'm just making a comment. I'm going to approve it. I'm going to vote yes. Having the budget task force is incredible. Having been on Bex and know what goes into that too. And our district needs, our requests have all stayed aligned. Everything that Kim just pointed out to us and explained to us has been within our district needs statement and what we've asked for. So I don't think the language is going to change the actual content of what we will be delivering.
Thank you, Tiffany. Anyone else? Okay. Milan, can you take this to a vote?
Okay, give me one moment. All right, thank you. And let's start with Borden.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chu,
Yes.
Dalal,
Yes.
thank you. Frizz,
Yes.
Gashow,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yep.
that was a yeah.
Sorry, I'm pressing the space bar and it's not timing right. I keep saying it and it's the wrong time. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Lavingia,
Yes.
okay. McCall,
Yes.
Mijatovic is a yes. Nodi Victor,
Yes.
Patel,
Yes.
Revis,
Yes.
thank you. Sherburne,
Abstain.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Abstain.
Thank you, just confirming. Okay. Sigmund,
Yes.
Thunden.
Yes.
Okay. And that is everyone. We have a near unanimous vote. Yay. So we are passed.
Great. Thank you, Milan. Okay, that's it for agenda items beyond new business. So any new business? Anyone? Libby?
Are we going to be remote for the full board meeting?
No. Full board is in person.
Okay, I wasn't sure because of the emergency order still being in effect.
No, I'm gonna take us. I mean, it's the virtual is an option which we're taking advantage of tonight, but I think it's better if we go in person. And we are at Gutman, correct, Marisa? Am I right? I can't check the website, so yeah, we're at Gutman. And we, in case any of you have wondered, we are very much aware of the issues with the website, as Marisa noted earlier. So we're working on it as fast as we can. Charles Nye.
Can you hear me okay? Hopefully. Yeah, there is new business I'd like to share. It was actually new business that I didn't get the opportunity to stay at the Quality of Life Committee because my raised hand got missed, unfortunately, which is I hope that that committee could maybe get information on the cuts that are happening to the libraries due to the budget deficit. As a member of the public, I'm very concerned about cuts to libraries as they provide a vital service, especially in our district. If they could maybe reach out to libraries or get more information, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Okay. I think that's all then. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Bye.